So welcome everyone to the San Diego Innovation Panel put on by the Haas Alumni Network here in San Diego in partnership with the Rady School of Business. My name is Darren Reinke. I'm a Haas alum, class of 2003, and I'm also on the Haas Alumni Board here in San Diego. During the day when I'm not doing panels, I run Group 60, a consulting and executive coaching company based in Encinitas. The idea for this panel was ignited by a desire to really promote and celebrate some of the great innovations that's happening here in San Diego, but also to connect people like yourselves, like-minded folks who are interested in innovation, both directly involved in it and also trying to learn more about it. I hope tonight should be a lot of fun. You guys all have drinks, so that's a good sign. But also hope that you walk away with 2 or 3 new insights that you can bring back to your companies, but also to help your career as well. By show of hands, how many of you are directly involved in innovation in your day-to-day jobs? Raise your hands. Mike's Great. And how many of you know more than 3 people in the room here tonight? How many of you know more than 3 people here tonight?
I know 3.
I just met 4.
I was going to have you do a little meet and greet exercise, but you guys seem to be pretty comfortable. So let's meet the panelists. But before I do, just want to give a special thanks to Stacy and her team here for hosting the event tonight, and also our 6 panelists who've taken time out of their busy schedules to be here. So let's meet our panelists. So Brian Enge here is the president of SKLZ, they're a manufacturer of training equipment for athletes. He's responsible for the execution of the company's strategic mission to make athletes better. Prior to SKLZ, he was the VP responsible for Active's consumer products business and has been in the industry for over 15 years. Interestingly, Brian's also a former professional soccer player and a graduate of Harvard undergrad as well as Harvard Business School. Next we have Alan Cole, who is the Chief Operating Officer at TakeLessons, an online 2-sided marketplace that matches students with private instructors. In his role, he's responsible for strategic planning and overall revenue growth. Alan is uniquely actually a native of San Diego, unlike many of us here. He's been operating early-stage venture-backed companies for nearly 20 years. He's also a graduate of the MBA program at UT, so for any bears this weekend, don't hold it against him. Next, we have Mike Orlando, who's a partner in the San Diego office of the global law firm Sheppard Mullin, Richter, and Hampton. He's the co-leader of the technology transactions team and a member of their award-winning healthcare team. He advises clients on a wide variety of complex technology transactions, including licensing arrangements, outsourcing projects, distribution deals, strategic agreements, and corporate transaction. His particular emphasis is healthcare, IT, and life sciences. He has both his JD and MBA from University of San Diego and his undergrad work here at UCSD. Then we have Dr. Dina Uzri, who is a senior scientist at Abreos Biosciences. She was their first employee and brings over 15 years of research experience and scientific expertise. Abreos is pioneering point-of-care tests for personalized dosing and counterfeit detection of biologic drugs. Prior to Abreos, she was a senior scientist at a biotech company here in San Diego focused on vaccine formulation. She has her PhD in virology from Harvard, did her postdoc work at Stanford School of Medicine, and has a certificate of innovation and entrepreneurship from the Ignite program at Stanford Graduate School of Business. Also, she's a current student here at Rady. Next, second to at the end, we have Jurgen Schmerler, who's the president of VerifiR. VerifiR developed the first platform to make unbreakable counterfeit protection available to people with mobile phones. VerifiR connects everyday products by tapping your cell phone on an item and connects you to the cloud, a very easy and inexpensive way to give you peace of mind. He has a Master of Engineering from a school in Germany and did his MBA here at San Diego State on a Fulbright scholarship. At the end, we have Stephane Richard, who's the founder and CEO of CureMatch. CureMatch developed a decision support software platform that guides oncologists in the selection of drugs for powerful combination therapy. He has over 10 years in business development for biotech, and he brings experience in strategy, management, and an exceptional network of collaborators to CureMatch. So he's a good guy to know if you want to build your network. He also founded French BioBeach in 2006, an organization promoting business between Southern California and European life sciences groups. He's written 17 scientific papers and holds 5 patents. He has a PhD in biophysics from the University of Joseph Fourier in Grenoble, France. All right, so let's get started. We've got about 45 minutes here till the top of the hour, and I'm going to ask questions for about 30 minutes. Panelists, I'd ask you guys to lob some questions back and forth. Should be fun, casual, and hopefully we're learning a lot from the conversation tonight. And then we'll turn it over to you guys for about 15 minutes to do a little Q&A. So Dina, I'll start with you. You have an interesting background. You're someone who's lived and worked in 4 innovation hubs in the US: Boston, Austin, Silicon Valley, and now San Diego. What do you think is unique to San Diego, and where do you think the biggest opportunities are moving forward?
So yeah, this is true that I've lived in 3 other tech hubs. And I've only been in San Diego since 2012, and my network here is much more expansive than it's been in any of those other locations. And I found that it's been really easy to connect and tap into networks here in San Diego. And there are so many events and organizations that will welcome you. And I actually met the founder of Abreos through my network, and I'd only been here for a couple of months. And so that's how I got into my company. And I think that that's one of the opportunities that we have here in San Diego, is that you can identify startups and really plug into those groups of people and find ways to work with them early on. And I think that that's really unique. I find that these other locations, they get a lot of attention in the news, but it seems like they are not just competitive, but they just don't have an easy way to bring in new people and embrace new people and give them new opportunities. So that's one of the things that I love about San Diego.
Great. And Mike, you have a unique perspective. You work with a range of companies across industries and also of different sizes in different stages in the life cycle. What are some examples of trends and disruptive technologies you see here in San Diego?
Well, that's a big question. There's a lot of innovation here in all kinds of sectors. I work half of my time, probably half of my practice is healthcare, IT, and life sciences. The other half is like everything else in IT, and there's a lot of like cybersecurity here. There's a lot of life science, medical device, bio, pharma, and then there's wireless. I think some of the things I'm seeing are wireless and wearable medical devices are like huge right now. They're proliferating at exponential numbers, and I think they're going to continue that way. And some of the things I'm seeing right now also are military applications too, like really unique stuff that nobody knows about, because that's something that they don't really talk about a lot. It's kind of kept secret a little bit. But I was fascinated by recently this client, we helped them with some patents. They have a bullet that can be shot at high calibers underwater. And I didn't know this before, but apparently when you see these movies where like the guy's like running and they're shooting at him, he jumps off the bridge into the river, and then the bullets are going into the water, and he's trying to go deep, swimming, that those bullets actually aren't lethal after only a few feet. Even high caliber rifles, I didn't know this, and they change directions really quick too. And so this company in San Diego developed a bullet that can like go through water for like 100 yards or something like that at lethal ranges. And so you could have a sniper, like a Navy SEAL sniper, underwater, like 20 feet underwater, at somebody on top of some building hundreds of feet away that can shoot, at lethal ranges. And it was fascinating, to learn that kind of stuff's happening in San Diego. I don't know if it's a disruptive, if you consider the military a disruptive, industry. But that's those kind of things are happening in San Diego, which is kind of a unique perspective that I see as well. And then, another one that I just would mention is audio technology. I see a lot of audio technology for some reason in San Diego. We have a company called Turtle Beach that we work with, and they have developed this speaker that is a glass speaker, right? A glass speaker that is like thin, like a sheet of glass. It's see-through speaker, okay? So think about that. You can put that into a screen of a TV or device. You no longer need an external speaker. The device gets smaller, the TV gets smaller, and that's extremely innovative, right? Another technology they have is like an unidirectional speaker, but it gives you the sense when you're hearing it that it's surround sound, even though it's only coming from one direction. That's from a company I work with called ComHear. It's just these things are happening in San Diego, and no one really kind of knows about them, but they are like kind of game changing but they're just not getting publicity. I think San Diego has a lot to offer, just outside of life sciences, which I see a lot of.
Anyone else have any other thoughts on unique things that are specific to San Diego?
So we're trying to save people instead of killing them? I mean, kidding's cool. I think that, yes, I mean, both for what you both said, connections here are very easy, and the fact that we have, you know, the Navy, the academic institution, the IT, the life sciences, the sport industry, basically the convergence of all of those fields really create some fantastic innovation. I think San Diego is a little bit of the supermarket of innovation, at least in life sciences. We don't have the big guys in town, right? But they come here, they acquire small companies. So we're the supermarket of innovation.
It's partially due to the lifestyle San Diego affords here. People like living here. Great scientists like to live here. They don't want to live in LA. They like to be here. Mm-hmm. And apart from that, you have Mexico as a manufacturing workshop right around the corner, which is a great thing. You don't have to go to China necessarily if you want to produce a thing, piece of good. And a lot of companies take advantage of that, and it's a very maybe underappreciated fact for San Diego.
Yeah, I would say I'm probably the outlier here, not being in the life sciences side of the business. But what a lot of people don't know is a big piece of the sporting goods industry here. And if you think about sporting goods hubs, they're really Boston, Portland, and here in San Diego. And really, most of that is based on the fact that people that want to work in the sports industry want to play here. It's pretty simple, right? It's the perfect place to play. It's the perfect place to have a lab. So no matter what you're in, if you're in golfing or triathlon or or basketball or baseball, it's the perfect place to train. It's the perfect place to test products. And the golf industry is based here. The endurance sports, the largest endurance sports companies are all based here, as well as a big piece of the action sports world. So it's really the natural landscape that brings those industries here for us.
Great. And Stephane, can you give us a little more context? You mentioned convergence. Can you talk to us about how San Diego specifically played a role in the launch of CureMatch?
Yeah. So basically, we're a digital health company, so we're a software platform, and we analyze the data that are created by the diagnostic company, create the data about the patient, cancer patient, and we analyze those data to support the physician in the process of making a decision on the best therapy for the patient. The technology was basically started from the collaboration between a fantastic oncologist from MD Anderson, who came to the most cancer centers 3 years ago, with a Russian computer scientist. And thanks to French Biovich that you mentioned earlier, thank you, they met this French investor, which is a nice thing about San Diego is that, like you say, it's a nice place to play, but it's also a nice place to enjoy yourself once you did really good and that you still want to be active, working, enjoy yourself. So you have a lot of those early stage people that can help a company get started. Then after you have the problem of, okay, we got started, we need more funds, etc. But that's what happened for CureMatch. This French entrepreneur met those fantastic scientists, realized that they were working on a fantastic technology that if nobody was helping them create a company, a business out of it, it would just stay used by one oncologist and one institution. And so it's really these meetings of opportunities that created a CureMatch. And basically the investor comes from the IT world. You know, his entire career, and in fact, even his partner, who's also a professional former soccer player. In fact, okay, I'm going to give their name, Analytics Ventures. If you're looking for somebody to go knock at the door to get your venture started, go see Blaise, Andreas, and Navid. Analytics Venture. The nice thing for me is that there were 3 partners coming from the IT world and saw the potential to move their expertise in the healthcare world. And at the same time, they've been raising their funds at the same time that we incorporated the company years ago. So it's like those IT people working with those hardcore biology or medical people.
Okay, thank you. The next thing I wanted to move into is about creating a culture of innovation. So one of the key pillars in creating a culture of innovation is being more customer-centric. So Brian, I want to ask you a question. So something at at SKLZ I think is really unique to you guys, is that you guys have created, I believe you said, an athlete-centric organization, which is the same or similar to companies being customer-centric. Can you talk to us about how you built an athlete-centric company and how other companies could perhaps apply that same approach to their benefit?
Yeah, for us, it is literally just weaving our customer, we call our athlete, into the fabric of our lives every day. Because for us, being customer-centric just means having great insight. And the only way to have great insight we see is simply just to be around it every day and experience it and to have open ears. And so for us, we do that in a couple ways. First and foremost, we hire athletes because it's easier for them to get the insight because they have that experience. So 80% of the people that work at SKLZ played at least high school sports, 40% played at least college level, and 10% played professionally. Just because they understand the athlete better than most because they've been through it. The second thing we do is we actually have our customers inside our building every single day. So we actually have a major performance lab inside of our headquarters. It's not run by us, it's run by a partner. And so we literally have 12-year-old athletes all the way to professional athletes in and out of our building every day. And our windows in our offices are set up so that we can see that lab or that performance facility. So we're literally watching people with our product every single day, which is pretty darn interesting. And then whenever we can, we just go to where our customer is. So we're out at events and camps and games as much as possible. And it really is just tying them in, because what we learn consistently is that it's actually quite easy to make a product once you have the insight. It's the insight that seems to be really elusive, and that's how we think about customer centricity, is just getting closer to that insight every day.
And how do you capture and disseminate that insight in your organization?
Yeah, I mean, that's the manual part of it for us. I mean, we capture it through specific people. So we have people who are in charge of the insight for each of their categories. So for example, baseball is a large category for us. The guy who's in charge of holding that insight, analyzing that insight, and then communicating that across our entire business community is a guy who grew up in the region of the country that produces the most MLB players. I always say he was born with a dip in his mouth and a ball in his hand, right? Like every good Louisiana baseball kid. Played professional baseball for the Cubs for 6 years. And his job is to be the baseball expert within our community and make sure that all the intake and then all the outflow of communication goes through him for that sport.
Great. Anyone else have anything to offer around creating a customer-centric organization?
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo the fact that it comes down to who you hire. And for us, we're an education platform, and we challenge ourselves in the same vein that Brian hires folks in terms of the athlete. We hire learners. And we firmly believe that the best way to innovate is to try something new and to push yourself. And that's the only way you grow. That's the only way you become a better person. And for us, that translates into everything we do within product, with everything we do within tech. And we hire people that are learners, and that is part of you hire athletes. Part of our interview regimen is making sure we uncover what people do to improve themselves on a regular basis, both in their personal and professional life, because we think that really translates into a culture of innovation and also allows them to set the bar higher. And when we innovate, we do so through goal setting. And we're not a big sort of moonshot company, huge OKRs. I don't personally believe in that approach, but what we do is set aggressive goals and hire people that can raise the bar. Now, this is like one way we drove innovation on the sales team. I always think about this. We have, for years, sold at a certain level, and we hired a rep 4 months ago who in his first month tripled the pace of any other sales rep, closed 3 times more sales than any other sales rep we've ever had. He was oblivious to the records and expectations. And so without having this constraint on him, he went in there and shattered every record we've ever had in his first month, and we set the bar higher because of that, because of who we hired, and we look for folks that can set the bar higher and innovate in what they're doing, and it just comes back down to who you hire.
And some very practical thing, I guess, in the IT world that's easy to do is rapid prototyping. If you have a good idea for something, get it done somehow and get it into the hands of your customers as quickly as possible. Like that's the main lesson that I've learned in IT, and in my prior life in pharma, it wasn't really that possible. But in IT, it's easy to put a prototype together and have that conversation with your customers because they give you the best feedback on whether that is something or is nothing. And the faster you have that information, the better you are.
To build on that rapid prototyping, would any of you like to talk about how you guys have applied lean startup principles in your organization? I think, Dina, we spoke about that on the phone.
So actually, it's related to the previous topic. Our company actually was a participant in the first National Institute of Health I-Corps program, and that program is all about identifying your customer's need. And so we had a technology, and we went out and talked to over 100 people over the course of only, I think, 8 weeks, and which was very difficult for scientists to do, but really, really important for a business. And I think that sort of all that information fed us not into only pivoting our technology or our application, but also to the rapid prototyping and being able to, come up with a quick change and then be able to test it out on people, even if it's not fully developed, but to have like a seed that you can show people and then, go back to the drawing board and rethink it or rework it however you need based on your customers without creating too many different products. And so that was really important for our company very early on.
Great. So the next thing I want to talk about is technology as a tool to address legal and regulatory concerns. So clearly technology is a great tool for disrupting a multitude of industries. I found it fascinating talking to some of the panelists about how they're seeing technology used to deal with some of those legal and regulatory concerns. So Mike, I'd like to kick this one over to you. So how are companies using technology to overcome legal and regulatory hurdles?
Well, the ones I see the most, regulation that people are worried about is cybersecurity and privacy in my world. And if you follow the legal issues that are most important to companies right now, there's few organizations out there that are annually surveying the general counsel, the top lawyer at each of these companies, and for the last few years, cybersecurity and privacy have been in the top 3. And so cybersecurity, obviously, with connected devices, IoT, has become this huge issue. We're seeing, people are getting hacked like every day. It's weird that we're coming to this point where every day I wake up and it's like, who's the new company or new government official or somebody that got hacked? And companies are facing this. It's a huge concern. And so one of the trends that we're seeing a lot of, and it's actually being encouraged by the FTC and other regulatory agencies, to do security by design. So I think a lot of the medical device companies I'm working with, for example, they're trying to build in security by design. They're trying to figure out how to do step authentication and things like that, built into the device itself. The other thing is just building in privacy tools and the notifications for the consumer and everything right into your device. You don't have to get consents and things outside of the device. Have everything in the app itself, so that you can deal with the regulation, make sure you're on top of it. It's really thinking through the design into your, not thinking about it afterwards. I think a lot of the tendency for startups is to we got to launch this product, right? We got to get it out, get into the market as soon as we can, and we'll deal with the regulatory and stuff later. And in some industries, that's fine, but I think in others where there's these issues with privacy and data, it's becoming a bigger concern where you really have to think about that at the beginning and build it into your initial product. Mm-hmm. Because I'm sure actually some of the panelists here have probably heard about there's this issue with Hospira this last year, and I mean, this was like an industry oh no kind of moment, I think, because the Hospira has these infusion pumps that control drug dosing. The patients can give themselves morphine, whatever. And some researchers figured out that you can hack it and change the library of the drugs so that the dosage levels and things can be changed. So you can imagine this is I don't know if anybody watches Mr. Robot in here. But that should raise your blood pressure if you're concerned about cybersecurity from that TV show. But I mean, this is a perfect scenario. Hillary Clinton falling and stumbling because she is sick and hits her head and goes in the hospital, and she's giving herself morphine, and somebody hacks into the system and changes it, and she gives herself a lethal dose or something. That's like a movie scenario. And Hospira had these guys hacked into it, and so the Homeland Security got involved with it, and finally the FDA issued an advisory just like a couple months ago to hospitals and said, stop using this product. And they've never done that before. They've never issued a warning to anyone to stop using a device across the industry because it can be hacked. It's totally game-changing, really. I mean, so everybody has to really think about that now. And they're going to start enforcement actions against companies who aren't. This is going to start proliferating enforcement actions against companies who don't take the security seriously from the beginning.
Aside from that hacking, I can talk to that a little bit because my prior company was in the pharmaceutical space. Validation of systems, IT systems, is a big deal there. And it actually counter to the topic of this event here. It's stifling innovation to a very big degree because nobody is doing much without that big overhead of documenting every process, and everything has to be signed off to the nth degree. You cannot change a little thing on the packaging of a drug because it has to go through an approval process. And the only way really to better that situation is through automation, to have processes that you use a computer system for that speeds the process through the system, and then you make submissions to the FDA. You have everything in order. You have, I don't know, 510K or whatever your device makers have to submit. That's the IT is absolutely necessary to do that properly.
Great. So a little bit of a different question for Dina. So how have you adjusted your strategy and product roadmap to address regulatory hurdles?
So we come from, I guess, a different, from the pharma or healthcare angle, where we want to be able to deliver our technology to the patients and to the physicians, but there is an enormous regulatory hurdle with dealing with the FDA. And so we are actually, our first test is going to be a laboratory developed test. And this is something that's going to be validated by a CLIA certified laboratory, but it allows us to sort of take advantage of a loophole, one might call it. This is currently undergoing a lot of scrutiny by the FDA, and they plan to probably enforce some regulations in the next couple of years. But at this point, we're working with the physicians to develop our technology, and we're validating it and making sure that the science is really, more than 100% solid, and that the doctors really want it and know what to do with the information. So we're not, just creating tests that the doctors don't know how to use and don't trust. We're definitely working only with the doctors to deliver these tests, but they actually were the ones that lobbied to bring it sooner, and they didn't want to wait for the FDA, and so we are launching our first test through an LDT mechanism, and that allows us to do that within a couple of months. And so that's sort of one way that we're bypassing the regulatory burden, although in parallel, we're also doing an FDA submission, 510K, for a product. So.
Okay, great, thank you. So the next topic I wanted to move on to is applying data and analytics to fuel innovation. So Alan, question for you. At TakeLessons, how are you collecting and leveraging data to increase marketplace liquidity?
So we are a data happy company. I mentioned before, hiring's everything. So we hire a lot of quantitative folks that are really comfortable in the numbers, and we collect data just like any consumer-facing company would on everything about consumers, what they do, what they buy, why they bought it, where they came from, and how long they stick with us. And really triangulating that to make sure we're matching the right channel with the right product is the key to everything we do. So our inventory is number of hours in the day of an instructor. So we're matching students with private instructors. So when we think about inventory on the shelf, it's how many hours a violin instructor in San Jose has in weekdays between 4 and 6 p.m. So our inventory is constrained at a geo level in a way that other companies aren't. So what we have to do is collect data at every angle to make sure that when we deliver our supply side, the inventory levels, we do so in a way that is a perfect match with the consumer that's coming to our site. And so by understanding who they are, which we get through analytics and third-party, some of the privacy concerns that probably are surfaced across the internet, we're taking advantage of with respect to where people are coming from, what they're doing, and also some self-reported demographics and behavioral questions that we ask on the way through to match with the highest likelihood of delivering revenue to the company. And it's not only about matching with the right teacher for us, it's the teacher that's going to retain with the right margins that deliver the highest lifetime value to our company. So it is both about understanding the consumer on our side, but since we're a two-sided marketplace, it's understanding who we're matching them with to make sure we're maximizing the margin on that side. And the only way we do that efficiently and consistently grow the company is through innovation and by constantly testing things. So we've got millions of people coming to our site every month, and we are testing probably a dozen things every 3 weeks, and we constantly iterate on that. And it's a culture that really celebrates asking questions and asking what we're trying to learn more than it celebrates the success, so that we can get comfortable when we do fail. And we do have a hitter's attitude. If we get 3 out of 10, we're doing great. And that's what we breed with everyone's in the company.
Perfect segue to Brian. So Brian, I want to ask you a little bit of a different take on data and analytics. So how do you use data and analytics to develop superior training products?
Yeah, my mind's still boggled by the puzzle that Alan's trying to solve. That is a very unique matching of supply and demand that you're trying. That is very, it's so much easier in my world, I can tell you that. Are there any soccer fans in the building? Awesome. All right. So this is how we use data when we think about products. So 78% of all goals scored in the English Premier League in the last 10 years were scored in 4 unique places in the goal. Right. So if you can simply teach a kid to shoot a ball in those zones, their success ratio goes through the roof. So we've created a product that literally covers every piece of the goal except for those 4 sections, right? And so mentally and physically, I'm training my body every day when I'm training to simply use those, to go to those zones. And so we have specialized striker coaches in the English Premier League coaching with that product. We have top professional, top college, and youth teams all over the world using that product. Another example is baseball. Anybody like baseball? Anybody hitting baseball? You're a good sports fan. You like them all. So one of the things, baseball is so rich with data. So a couple of things we know about baseball is that depending on the exit velocity, so how fast the ball comes off the bat, and the exit angle dictates your complete success as a batter in the sport of baseball. And so we know that if you hit if the angle of the ball comes off your bat between 11 and 33%, right? Or the angle is 11 and 33, you would hit theoretically 685 in Major League Baseball, which is double the best ever, right? And we know that between almost every home run that's hit in MLB comes off at a 23 to 29 degree angle. And so we have products, and we're developing products that teach kids that repetitively, if I can hit into those zones, so if I'm hitting off a tee into a net in my backyard, if I can hit into those zones, I can figure out if the tee is 10 feet away from the net and the tee is at X height, and it goes into the net at this area, that yes, you are in that 11 to 33 range, and therefore you're going to find success more often than not. So to use Alan's idea of we're like batters and 3 out of 10 is great, we're using data to make sure that 6 out of 10 becomes great. And that's how we think about data. A lot simpler proposition than what you got.
That's fascinating. So the last topic I wanted to go into quickly is about finding and assessing new opportunities. So Jurgen, this one's for you. So what methods are you using to identify and evaluate new marketplace opportunities?
It's definitely talking to customers and being there, listening properly when you talk to potential customers. And actually, since we're at the sports thing, I might bring up a nice experience I had 3 weeks ago when I was up at Adidas Future Center in Portland. And I was actually brought there by an ex-Nike guy who worked for Nike. And just to juxtapose those 2 companies was like an eye-opening for me, where Nike and Adidas both hire people fresh from college and start them working in their verticals. And that's where the similarities pretty much end, because Nike enforces pretty strict adherence to those verticals. Like you are in that one, you stay in that one. Any adventure outside is kind of frowned upon. Adidas has the opposite approach. They like the cross-fertilization between the verticals, and even if they come up with a new product, they like to implement it through a matrix organization where you have the verticals. Yes, okay, you're for shoes, you build the soles and so on, but you're implementing it with all the other horizontal organizations. And how they foster it is they have those events where they bring everybody in the company, so there are like 40 people in Adidas Future. They bring them together regularly to listen to topics that are completely outside their field. So they make them available for an hour and listen to, I was part of that group, listen to a completely strange topic just to get them talking to each other and cross-fertilizing each other in those verticals. And that's a very good example, and I want to institute that for VerifiR as well. If you're really good in a vertical, that's good, but so are 1,000 other people out there. The real difference you can make is if you make the combinations between verticals. And that, for me, that is the big goal that I set for VerifiR as well.
So the last question before we turn it over to the audience is for Alan. So what methods and data do you use to identify and evaluate new markets to move into?
Yeah, similar to some of the other answers. We do ask a lot of customers, but we have the benefit of having a big consumer audience, so we watch them more than we ask them. So we'll socialize a lot of our services in new categories and then see what gets picked up, see where traction forms and invest accordingly. We are one big arbitrage model, so it is what we can spend versus what we earn. And if we see traction in one area, but we can't spend cost effectively to bring traffic in through that channel, we can't pursue it because we're going to lose money on every customer who comes through the door. So we've got to match this. Hey, where do we see traction? Where do we cost effectively bring customers in with where we can deliver margin? And fortunately, we've got a big enough audience where we can test a lot of things and just watch it happen. So back to the analytics, we talk to customers once they come in to understand how our products resonate with them, but we can see conversion rates, and conversion rates are the truth. They show exactly what a customer would do, not what they hope to do. Most survey responses are aspirational. So we see actual, and that's what we rely on to make our product decisions.
Okay, great. I should turn it over to you guys. Who has any questions?
What business intelligence tools do you guys tend to use? Like Tableau? I know Spotfire is used in life sciences.
We use Tableau. So we actually use Postgres as an open source database. The price is right for that for our startup. So we collect a ton of data in Postgres, but we do everything in Tableau. And actually our head tech guy, our biggest brain in the building, is our primary data analyst and does all of our reporting in Tableau. And we have almost every stat you could ever want in real time, and we manage that on a day-to-day basis. It's an awesome tool.
Do you find it user-friendly, relatively user-friendly?
It depends on who's writing the reports. Like with any application like that, it all comes down to how someone chooses to either visualize the data or present the data. And so we had a really smart data analyst who created reports that were not user-friendly. And it's a function of it's art. I mean, it's just like any good UX person, creating a great product, a great experience versus not. Same with reporting, same with data visualization. So it depends on who's writing the reports in my experience.
So I didn't hear anyone mention the visionary CEO or founder as the source of innovation. Is that a fallacy in your guys' opinion, or any thoughts on that? Is it more about asking? I mean, Jobs said, right? If I ask customers what they want, I just give them a faster feature phone, right? Or Henry Ford, right? So
Well, it sometimes probably coincides that you have the visionary being the CEO, but at the end of the day, the job of the CEO is to enable his people to be the innovators of the company. I think the Steve Jobs of the world are very rare. And most companies don't have a visionary CEO, which is not really necessarily their job to run a company. It helps if he enables his people to do their best and inspires them, but it's not necessarily a success guarantor to have a visionary CEO, but it helps.
Yeah. What about avoiding local maximums? I've seen that with data, right? Is you'll optimize on something, but you'll miss some. Like I was at Zynga, and we made the best Facebook games ever. We missed mobile, right? Which ended up killing the company, right? So
so if I can add to this, we're a small company, right? We haven't reached a year yet, and we have a diverse group of people with different visions. We have a fantastic oncologist who's got the vision to help people. We have the original investor who shares this vision, but who's still an investor. And then we have the partner of the investor who comes from the analytics and the sport, and who has a tendency to make some shortcuts, which are good in one industry, but are not necessarily good in our industry. So at the end, you need to have somebody that's, the how do you call that? The conductor. that will manage to get everybody to work together and make sure they're not just protecting their vision, but that they are all working together and bringing good people that will help this entire team move in the right direction. Because you can have fantastic technology with fantastic vision that will go nowhere. You can have fantastic entrepreneur that will not understand the science and the regulatory aspects, and you're just going to be shut down, and you're going to be Theranos. So like you say, it's maybe not every day that you have a Steve Jobs, but you need to have somebody that will get everybody to work together. And it's challenging, but it's fun.
I think your question about sort of the visionary thing is really interesting, because I think a lot of companies waste a lot of time sitting around waiting for that incredible breakthrough moment. My experience tells me that innovation comes through a bunch of small tweaks of how do you do it a little bit better and how do you gain that insight. And I think that the idea of one person holding all that information is just a fallacy. I mean, because there's very rarely a time, and even the Steve Jobs myth has got to be that, right, where it was one vision. You know that just from being in applications that you're all in, that this is a contribution of many people over many time to kind of get inch by inch by inch, and all of a sudden you've got an interesting idea that usually, by the way, is just better than something else that's already out there rather than incredibly breakthrough. So that my experience says it's inch by inch that you really get there. It's kind of that idea of, wow, we're a 10-year overnight success. Right? And I think innovation follows that same line.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, our CEO was the inspiration and the innovation at the start, but 10 years in, just a bunch of us boring operators trying to tweak the dials and get every ounce of juice out of it that we can. But he certainly created the momentum in the early years. And now we were doing our best to build on that.
Mike.
What was perhaps market or customer the most disruptive or the most unexpected market insight that you might have that stands out from data analytics or from experience?
Yeah. So I'll get a ton that come to mind. I mean, for us, again, we're fairly boring in that we are really just arbitrage. So it is like when we came up with insights in terms of the cost to acquire per channel and the margin per customer type, it was everything else in terms of changing the fundamental economics of our business. And so we expanded in terms of hundreds and hundreds of different categories. And not surprisingly, the violin student in San Jose is worth a heck of a lot more than a crochet student in Enterprise, Alabama. And so, the data, until we had that level of analytics, we would have spent similarly to acquire similar customers. And that was the absolute wrong decision. Same with channel. We have very different lifetime value based on channel. So for us, it is about acquisition and margin. And without the analytics, and we've got 9 years of data now that we can feel confident in when we look at margin per customer, margin per sale, margin per star, or return rates and all that. That allows us to, we're moving towards profitability. It's critical in terms of our economics of the business, is really understanding that for us.
So I want to understand, how do you guys kind of manage innovation? Like, most of you talked about letting everyone kind of contribute towards innovation, right? But there is a thin line between how much time and money you can spend on innovation versus executing certain things, which is the bread and butter of the business itself, right? So how do you guys kind of manage this aspect of
That should go down to you guys, because there's a lot more R&D. There's a lot more R&D investment in your world.
So one thing I can say to that, in our company, we're really small, early stage, and we don't yet have a product in the market, but we're getting there. In our case, we have a technology, and we have to have that be solid, and it's a platform, so we can implement it in a variety of forms, and so we can have that sort of operational aspect going in the background in parallel while we are exploring new market opportunities, for example. And so we've been innovative in terms of our applications and maybe the form factor of our products, but in parallel, we always have something that's going in the background that will be important for us to have to deliver the final product. So I don't know if that sort of is helpful. We sort of have to balance both.
But how do you guys decide, this percentage of the entire cost should be on innovation versus execution? Is there a strategy that you guys?
Not really. I mean, we're a really tiny startup, so we kind of play it by ear. I don't know how it works in a bigger company, but in a startup, it's very flexible, and we kind of every day it can change, but.
Yeah, I think that all startups are innovation. Everything is innovation, right? You have to innovate your product. You have to create your product. But even if you're a bigger company, I think it's important to understand that innovation can come from everywhere. So your marketing people can innovate, your sales people can innovate, your operators in the production plant can innovate. So you have to address that and make time available. At the end of the day, it's time that you make available. 3M has this great model where they allow any of their employees to spend, I believe, 10% of their time every week on something unrelated to their job. And that led to great innovation in that company. And so there are different strategies, but in the end, it boils down, free up some space for people to think outside the box and follow through on that, and then foster the ideas that have potential.
Hey, Billy, on that, I have one of my clients, I thought it was really cool. We implemented a program about 5 years ago where they run this contest every year. It's an innovation contest, and all the employees can give ideas to the company about new products and new ideas, and then there's like a panel that votes on which one they should pursue, and if they do, then they win like trips and kind of fun things. So you make it like a game. It's an innovation game at the company, make it fun.
Just trying to better understand your wish list. What are some resources or skill sets that you feel if you wish San Diego had that would help you with your stuff?
Let's take that one.
It's in the startup phase, my wish list would be if there was more VC activity going on here. Basically, we are being sent up to the valley every time we need to raise a round. The money is just not as available here. So that would be on my wish list, getting more structure into the VC process here.
Yeah, I'd add product managers. And I mean, consumer-facing product managers that have been there. And I think there's a misconception that product manager is just technical. I mean, product managers are business owners and should have a business mindset, and that every investment in the product drives a return. And I think that's a big void for us here.
It seems to me that anything that's digitally oriented, that's kind of digital and business combined, is at a shortage, right? We see it in digital marketing capabilities and talent. We see it in digital management talent. We see anything where there's that combination of business skills, market skills, and digital know-how. So difficult to find here. It's real scarcity for us.
We create a little recruiting video for San Diego. Here are the jobs and how to done. You got a question, sir?
Yeah, you have innovation, but then you have to get the job done. So how do you balance this idea of creating these great ideas, but then they have to get finished? I mean, you run into that problem. I mean, Brian, you're talking about all these things. I mean, if everybody's there thinking about a new idea, but you never get it finished, then how do you work that? How do you balance that? I mean,
So that's so tough. It's a great question. We're really different. I'm listening to Dina talk about not having a product and how interesting that is to be able to create a business around that. Whereas I'm on a tight schedule. We have a new sport launches every certain time, so we have to launch a product. When baseball season comes around, I have to launch a new product. When the new year comes around and everybody wants to buy fitness products, I have to have something new in the marketplace. So we walk that fine line every day. And I would say the toughest part is actually managing the sensitivities of the engineers and the creatives, because they want to make it perfect, and we're asking them to make it perfect. And at the end of the day, oftentimes we have to compromise to get to that commercialization because we can't wait. And so there is a go, no-go time. And so the toughest part of that, honestly, is making the tough call and then managing the kind of the aspiration of the people, the engineers and the designers on your staff to make sure that they understand that there's a business. I find that same thing in graphic design type people that I've worked with and that sort of thing. That's sometimes hard for them to commercialize a product on time because they never feel like it's finished. And if we left it up to our engineers, we would never get a product to market. So yeah, there's a lot of sensitivity to that.
We have time for one more question, or two more. You and then you, please.
Yeah. So three main components: computing, connectivity, and security. And we have talked about security, that having a lot of emphasis nowadays, digital security especially. But on computing and connectivity, is that as of today posing any challenges or bottlenecks to the innovations that you guys are doing? Or you think that the connectivity and the computing powers that you have in your machines are good enough for the kind of innovations that you are trying to do?
If I can get started, our goal is to make sense of the data that are created by the diagnostic companies that are in the front end. We're using Amazon Cloud. We're having some great results, but because we're very focused on one type of data and one type of analysis, then you have all of the medical records, bunch of data, and the big guys like IBM, Watson, oncology, they say, hey, we're going to take all of this data, we're going to make sense of the data, we're going to have the solution, we're going to partner with Sloan Kettering, you're going to have something. But 2 years later, they start trying to figure it out. So it's not necessarily just the computation power, it's still science. You're still trying to solve a problem. You still need to have scientific approach to the problem you're trying to solve. So, the brute force approach is not necessarily the best one. So it's not necessarily computing power that's the limit.
And to connectivity, you're from Qualcomm, right? So I assume it's you're talking about connectivity in this sense. That's actually a source of our innovation, where we try to figure out how to make those talk to the chipsets that are on the product. And we just filed a patent this week again, how we implement antennas on carbon, for instance, which is not trivial. So that connectivity is a source of innovation, and actually San Diego is very well suited for that. Having Qualcomm here and having a lot of engineers around Qualcomm, Nokia, I mean, that's a goner, but the people are still around, and so that for that reason, San Diego is very well suited for connectivity kind of innovation.
Right, but my question was towards they're not posing challenges to you today, meaning your use cases are well addressed with the amount of computing and connectivity that is available today.
No, there are challenges. That's why we have to innovate to get around those challenges.
So there are challenges around.
Yeah. Okay, and one more question.
Sure. So once you, your team or your organization has innovated and produced that home run product that's a cash cow, how do you and your team stay hungry? And how do you maintain your talent? And can you maintain your talent in that organization as it grows, rather than going and starting and innovating some brand new thing on their own or without any their own success pulling them back at the organization that they innovated in the first place?
Anybody have a cash cow that they haven't managed? I haven't had faced the problem yet, to be honest.
So even if you suppose you have a cash cow, other people will see that and learn from your success, and you won't have that cash cow for long if you don't continue innovating. So you have to make your product better whether you want it or not all the time. And that keeps you hungry because you see all the other companies popping up with similar ideas, and you want to stay ahead of them.
And for us, it's just serving the customer. And so, I mean, there's always a next stage you can get to. You just need teams that are really, really passionate about serving the customer. And they will want to deliver a better product because they're intrinsically motivated to do so. And if you get a customer-facing, customer-focused team, I should say, that's for at least in my experience, that's the secret to continuing to push the product farther and farther.
I would throw a contrary view to that, which is, I don't know, I think that there are too many examples of human nature where success breeds softness, and we see it in sport every day. We haven't had that problem, but I would guess, just based on all the examples you've seen in sport of people who are very successful and then drop off or sign a huge contract and then drop off in their performance, the human nature tells you that you may have to reinvent your team or move new people in to drive future success. That the same person that gets such a big home run is probably not going to replicate that success over time, and you're going to have to find a new place in the organization from them. There's just too many examples there are so few examples of people being humble and hungry over time and repeating success that they'd be able to do that no matter how customer-centric they are.
Great. Well, thanks to everyone. I hope you guys have had some fun and you walk away with a few insights to bring back to your companies. Special thanks to the 6 panelists and to Rady for hosting tonight. And there's plenty of food, plenty of drinks out there in the lobby. I think we have the facility till 9 o'clock. So look forward to meeting you guys out there.